Hi everyone, this is Irene from IBMS, and welcome to this chat room. I'm actually in my hotel somewhere in Malaysia. We just finished a training on Kodai and integrating arts, math, sciences into music, and it's been a wonderful but very intensive week, and I'm currently relaxing because we're done with all that training and stuff. I'm actually starting this chat room because I've been reading a book and I've been wanting to share it, but I don't know what kind of platform or how I can share it in the best way possible. So I'm thinking maybe just have a chat or a hangout. I wish this could have been live, but at this moment I can just record myself and talk to myself, I guess. But you can always comment and I will stream it live when I have better internet. And then from there, if you want to comment, then I'll just be at the chat room and reply to you. But basically, the main idea for this whole thing is to be like a book club, and then maybe from there, certain topics and ideas and questions can come up and we can talk about it. Maybe you're a music teacher or you're a parent, you have kids that are currently taking music lessons and it's proving to be a bit difficult for you. You don't know how to navigate through the world of music and practice and all that stuff, then maybe this chat room will help. So, like I said, it's a book club of some sort, chat room, hangout, whatever you call it. For this first session, actually, we're going to just go over. I want to share with you this book. Sorry, I'm a bit all over the place because I am doing this for the first time. This is the first session, and I'm not really. What do you call this? I always tell my husband, you can always speak on the fly and it will sound like as if you prepared for your speech. But for me, whenever I am speaking in public, I just go blank. But anyway, it's a weakness that I want to overcome, and hopefully this chats will help with that. But anyway, what I really want to do today and in the past next chats that we're going to have is to go over this book. Okay, so Music Practice Makeover, Strategies to Make Practice with Your Music Student as Painless and Efficient as Possible by Christine Goodner. I've just read the first chapter. I haven't read the whole book, and I just want to talk to you about the certain ideas that she mentioned in the first chapter that really resonates with me. And maybe if you're also reading this book, then you can also share later in the chat what resonated with you. So yeah, I think that's it. Actually, Christine Goodner is not a new author for me. I've read her book, which is Beyond the Music Lesson, and she's actually a Suzuki violin teacher, and I'm really interested in her books and her ideas because I am also a Suzuki teacher myself, but I teach the piano and I am currently actually teaching online. So I am based in the Philippines, but I am teaching students from different parts of the world. So it's a wonderful thing to be able to do that because you get to know and learn different cultures and different kids, but then we are all bound by the same love for music. Anyway, I would highly recommend that you would get a copy. If you have access to Amazon, that would be really great. Get your copy, or digitally, it's also available. So anyway, before we start, did I forget anything? Yeah, so basically, I really have been wanting to read this book for the longest time because I am having a struggle over how to encourage parents mostly. How do I let them know the importance of practice, and how do I make them see the need for their child to practice on a consistent and regular basis. And then, of course, with the student themselves, how can I impart to students in the most painless way possible the importance of practice? And it's a struggle for me recently and in the past few months, where when you're an online teacher, you don't have that much impact, I think, when compared to if you're seeing the child physically. Once they turn off the screen, that's it, and it's gonna be the parents' role from that point to motivate the child. So anyway, I hope that at the end of the chapter and at the end of reading this book, that I personally will be able to help my students, help myself as well, be disciplined in practice, and help the parents as well to know the importance of practice. And I hope na you will also get new ideas or learn a lot of things. Okay, so this is just a summary. We're not gonna talk about everything in the chapter. Like I said, I'm going to only talk about certain points that appealed to me. And so if you really want to get the best out of it, you have to get your own copy of the book. Okay? In the first chapter, the title is Productive and Positive Practice. So what is productive and positive practice? There's a part here that she said, practice is hard work. Sometimes it feels tedious. We can make rapid progress sometimes, and during other times, feel like nothing is happening. In the challenging moments, we may wonder if we're just wasting our time or if we're doing it all wrong. Now, that kind of statement tells me that she's being very introspective in the way that she's describing practice, because there are some people na they just go through it and they don't know whether they progressed or whether it's a bad practice. But those who are really in tune with themselves, I think, when they're practicing, they know if it's bad practice and they know if it's actually a good practice. So that kind of intuition, that kind of analysis of your own practice, I think is very important, because it will help you to gauge whether you should work harder or whether it's time for a break, or whether you're on the right track, basically. And she is basically saying that there are times when practice is like just like as if there's nothing happening, and there's a lot of things that are going wrong. Back in college, I've certainly had those days when I was repeating certain passages of music over and over and over, and every time I repeat, more and more and more and more mistakes is coming out. So I'm like, this doesn't make sense. The more I repeat, the more mistakes come out. So that was it. I'm like, that's it. I'm not practicing anymore today. That's enough. The next day I come back to practice and I go and play the same passage, and it was just perfect. And I'm like, I never touched the piano from the last time I practiced, and this is the first time I'm playing piano for today. What happened? It was just a bad day, I guess, or my brain is tired and stuff like that. So it's interesting that practice can be bad and practice can be good. But the important thing is, she said that even though it can be bad and even though it can be good, the most important thing you can do is to always show up. And she actually shares this experience of Hilary Hahn. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she's a very famous violinist, still alive today, of course. And she actually is the model artist for the violin Suzuki recordings, the most recent model. She would do this 100 days of practice challenge, and she would video herself and put it on Instagram. There were days when she would just practice a few minutes, and there were days when she can really, you would see in the videos that she would practice, and you can see that she was really concentrating and focusing. You can see that she's really making a lot of progress in that certain practice session. But then there were times when she would say, I'm less focused today, and I don't know if I am doing it right, or I don't feel like my practice is going somewhere, or she would say, it's been a really busy day and I only have a few minutes of practice, but I'll just practice for a few minutes and call it a day. So, and this is from the mouth of someone who is a professional violinist, Grammy-winning artist. So, for her to be able to admit that she herself have bad practice days, how much more we, right? So how much more the kids that are learning their instruments and they're beginners who may not really know how to practice yet, right? So what was important was, even though there were days for Hillary, there were practice sessions that were not so good, and there were days when it was good, but she showed up for those 100 days. So that was the idea. She also shared in her book this quote by Seth Godin, which is a very famous author, and he said, only the effort is under our control, the results are not. And this is really applicable to practice. There are times when the practice is not going well, and we may feel bad about it, we may feel like we're not making progress, but the effort that we put, meaning the effort of showing up every day, despite of the busy schedule, in spite of whatever is happening in life, if you keep showing up, later on the results will show. One line that I like in that area also was, acknowledge the day for what it is and try again tomorrow. And that it is normal, this is normal, it's not abnormal, but it is normal that children may love certain aspects of playing but still find the discipline of individual practice sessions a challenge. Even professionals feel the same way. I have a student, and right after lesson the mom said, I don't understand, he really hates practice. Whenever I tell him, okay, teacher Irene said you have to practice this one, and you have to repeat it 5 times and this particular measure several times, and he would grumble through the whole thing, and he would just but when I don't make him practice and I just let him be, he will come to the piano on his own, and he will just play the old pieces that he has learned from you, and he will just play, and he will like it. And that's really a classic example of a kid who loves music. They love the music, but they're still navigating the idea of practice because they don't see, they may understand that the practice helps them, but it can be a complex thing emotionally. Practice is like that. And a kid is probably not yet ready to handle the emotional requirements of the discipline of practice. So for them, it's just, okay, just repeat it, and then it should come out nice after only a few repeats. And if he's not getting that result, then he's grumbling his way through. So it's understandable. But for parents who may have children like that, it's not because they don't like music. It's not because they don't like to play the instrument. They love the instrument. They love it. It's just practice is altogether a different cup of tea. And if they're showing certain avoidance or a certain attitude towards practice, then we can help them more to love and understand it. So she said to just take an honest look at practice. And she said, our relationship with practice has more to do with our relationship with repetitive and disciplined tasks in our lives than our love of our instrument or music itself. Did you get that? Do you understand that? Ulit. Our relationship with practice has more to do with our relationship with repetitive and disciplined tasks in our lives. So if you're the kind of person who likes routine, you like the idea of the discipline of doing something in a repetitive way, then you would love practice. But if you're not like that, the discipline of practice can be difficult. But it doesn't mean that you don't love music anymore or you don't like the instrument anymore, because it can be a different thing. I don't know. What do you think? You can leave your comment and share what you really think of that passage. Our relationship with practice has more to do with our relationship with repetitive and disciplined tasks in our lives than our love of our instrument or music itself. In the next section of that chapter, she outlines what is positive practice and why is it important. So what really is positive practice, especially with kids? I have another student and the parent told me, Teacher Irene, this week and the last week and the last few weeks, and actually every time we practice, it's like World War III in our house. We fight a lot. She cries. I get angry. And I don't know how we can keep going. Maybe we're just going to quit lessons. And I really felt sad because parents have this dream for their kids to be able to play music, and not just for themselves, not just for the parents to feel good, but they really understand the value of being able to play an instrument. And so they invest, they give their money, and maybe at the beginning of the lesson, they'll give the time and effort to practice with the child. And then after a while, the relationship gets severed because the parent wants to do what the teacher said. They were probably taking copious notes during lesson, and then during practice at home, they try to implement what the teacher was saying. And the kid knows, you're not my piano teacher, you're my mommy. Why are you telling me this? And then mommy becomes angry because the child is not doing it the way that she understood it during the lesson, and the fight happens, right? Or maybe there's a different reason, but most of the time it's like that. Another parent messaged me and said, we're practicing right now, and I told my daughter this is how you wanted it. You wanted her to practice this and repeat at this section, la la la, but she doesn't want to do it. That I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, so what happens is when parents are not the most patient, then they get insulted with that kind of comment from the kid, and a fight happens. So for whatever reason, a fight happens during practice. When it happens during practice time, the practice now becomes a negative experience and not a positive experience anymore, right? So I really like this section where she said, what is positive practice and why is it important? So she gave 4 descriptions of what should happen in a positive practice, and it means working together productively with mutual respect. And then having a feeling of accomplishment when we leave the practice room. 3rd, building the habit of practice so it becomes part of our routine. And 4th, learning something or improving it. So I'm not going to go through all of that because I think she's going to flesh it out in the book. It's real practice, true practice, correct practice, smart practice requires deep focus. And it can be really intense. So for those who are really used to practicing, they have mastered the idea of being able to focus and discipline themselves in the repetition so that every repetition of the phrase has a specific intent. And like I said a while ago, it can incorporate a range of emotions, right? And many times, one of the emotions that can happen in practice is frustration. You're frustrated because you cannot get it. And you're looking at the time, and it seemed like your hands, your mind, your arms, whatever part of your body is not cooperating with you. And for children, dealing with frustration in practice, these are things that are new for them. They need help in navigating through it, basically. And she was suggesting that for adults, they should really help children practice. And what she said was to apply cognitive and compassionate empathy, meaning try to understand how the child is feeling at that moment while they're practicing, and then take the steps to help. The parent is not the piano teacher. Okay, so and the child knows that. Piano teacher is different from mommy or daddy. And what the child wants from mommy is the assurance, the encouragement, basically being the coach. You can do it, okay? And so when they are not feeling right and they're getting frustrated, and I can't get it. And I know kids that are like that, because I've seen it in lessons, and I'm not surprised if that happens at home as well. And what is the role of the parent when that happens? Do we stifle their frustration, or do you stop the practice and say, okay, why are you getting frustrated? What is it? What's the problem? And then talk through it, acknowledge the emotion, talk through it, and then when he is out of his frustration, if he can get back to practice, then good. But if not, and you need to take a break, take a break. But the child needs to see that the practice should be a positive experience. And when I am frustrated, my parent is willing to listen to me. Not tell me to stop being frustrated. I cannot stop being frustrated. This is hard. But a child cannot verbalize that. So, and I'm learning that for myself as well. I'm not really preaching to the parents, but I'm preaching to myself. So yeah, I think that's what it means by cognitive and compassionate empathy. If you know more about it, please comment below, because right now I know I'm just talking to myself. And then she says, consistent and effective practice is a huge part of being successful on an instrument. But the real work that moves us forward and develops our skill does not only happen at the lesson or with the teacher, but in the everyday practice that happens at home. I have repeated this over and over to a lot of my parents and a lot of my students as well. And I have heard this over and over also when I was practicing and I was a music student myself. And I mean, until now, I'm still a music student. Even though I'm a music teacher, the learning never stops. The practicing never stops. And it's not really in the lesson that the child becomes good. It's the way they practice at home, the way that they discipline themselves at home. And like I said, children cannot discipline themselves, but it's really in how the dynamics between the parent and the child happens, and the why behind why should we learn music, why should I take piano lessons anyway. Sometimes when we have those fights at home, the child will ask the questions that a lot of parents get insulted with, and they would say, why should I take piano lessons anyway? I don't like this, or this is so hard, why are you making me do this? They would say those things. And then of course, not many parents will just be patient enough to deal with that kind of question. They would retort and answer back, and there goes the fight, and nobody wants to practice anymore. So, but really, success happens in the everyday thing, and it happens at home. Teacher is not there with you. I will tell the student, teacher is not at home with you. You only see me once a week. but mommy is always with you, and the recording is always with you, and those are the things that will make you good. I tell that to the student every time, and I don't know how much more I should say it, but I guess repetition will help them understand. And that is what she's also saying. Keep the environment at home as positive as possible. Listen to the child in their frustration. Help them to understand that frustration is normal and that practice is hard, but that the important thing is they show up and they can try their best to make the most out of it. Okay, so from this point, she actually wrote a paragraph on what the teachers help the students do. What the teachers help the students do is when they come to lessons, the teachers explain the concepts and ideas, and you get assigned for what you need to follow through, and what you can do, develop a routine where you can practice, right? Then the teacher also helps you to break down complex. Not you. I don't know if there's a student watching now, but if you're a student, then yeah, that's what the teacher helps you do. But if you're a parent, that's what the teacher is helping your child to do, right? So the teacher helps break down the complex skills and helps make things easier. The teacher also helps the student understand why there is a need to repeat and how we can make the complicated concepts and skills a bit more easier. And then the teacher also kind of like track your improvement and your skills. Are you progressing or not? And then the teacher also helps to prevent bad habits. They try and analyze the position and the technique, and they will try and catch and correct those habits, and that it will not get in the way of progress. So that's what the teacher does. They analyze how you're performing for them right now and make comparisons on how you have been performing in the past, and then they make recommendations, right? Like a doctor, you come to the doctor and you ask them, okay, well, this is what's happening to your body and this is what you need to do. You need to exercise more, you need to eat more vegetables, and I'm gonna give you a prescription. You drink it 3 times a day, and when you get out of that consultation, what do you try to do? You try to do what the doctor told you because you want to be healthy, you want to live a longer life, and you try to drink the medicine that he prescribed. So same thing with practice. Teacher will tell you, okay, this passage, make sure to practice it 10 times. So when you go home, you do exactly what the teacher tells you to do, because the teacher can conceptualize and has the experience of what to do, and he knows that his solutions will really help in the long run. And then she said, I really like the phrase, after she enumerated what the teacher helps the students do, she said, but, big but, only the student can put in the time, work, and repetitions to learn and incorporate what their teacher has taught them into their playing. As teachers, we don't have a magic wand to give you the skills you need instantly. You have to practice, okay? And parents are really the coaches, practice coaches, or practice partners. You cannot leave your child alone in the living room and you're doing something else. Okay, let me say that again. You cannot leave the child and say, okay, so you practice, and you're on your phone or you're watching something on Facebook or TikTok or whatever, or you're cooking and you're doing the laundry and folding the laundry somewhere else. As a practice partner and as a practice coach, what do you do? Like, let's say, how would you feel as a parent, right? And maybe your child is part of a sports club or something, and so you bring your child to soccer practice or maybe orchestra practice, right? Okay. And what if the conductor of the orchestra would say, okay, just practice, all right? Just play. And the conductor is just there texting or on the phone or in the backstage drinking coffee, what do you think will happen to that orchestra practice, right? Or like I said, soccer practice, and the kids are just running around practicing, and there's no coach at the side saying, hey, you, make sure you're always, yeah, I don't know soccer, but anyway, you know how coaches do it, right? So as the parent, basically what Christine is saying is, as a parent, when your child practices, you should be right there beside them as a coach and as their partner, telling them and helping them navigate the hard stuff, which is the practice itself is the hard stuff. And they need you there. They need you during lesson time, and they need you even more in practice time. There will come a time when they won't want you to be there. Believe me, they don't want you to be there. But if you have kids that are really young, make sure that you're there. Make sure that you are a part of every step. And this is something that you need to think about. If you're listening to this and you're contemplating on sending your kids to music lessons and you don't have a child that's doing music lessons yet, that's one of the things that you really need to consider. You ask the teacher, oh, how many minutes is a weekly lesson? 30 minutes. And in your mind as a parent, 30 minutes a day, that's fine. Okay. You have to consider that for the next following weeks, as your kid is learning whatever instrument, trumpet, guitar, violin, that you're going to be there for them 30 minutes every day, that you're willing to give up whatever it is that you do at home and be with them for those 30 minutes, present with them in those 30 minutes, not doing something else. I know it's a tough call, right? Because parents are busy, especially if this is not the only child that you have and you have other children to manage and you have other things that you manage. It's going to be difficult. And so just think of that. But practice coach, right? She said, the key is to focus on coaching students through the work involved and helping support them in the process of practice. And this role is invaluable when practicing with a young student. That's why in Suzuki method, it's really, really, really super important that the mother or the father is there every step of the way, whether it's practice, whether it's lesson. The main communication in the lesson happens between the teacher and the child, right? That's happening in the lesson. And the parent is there as a present figure trying to absorb everything that's happening in the lesson. Once the lesson ends, the parent now is going to make sure that everything is enforced in a very gentle way. Of course, you enforce things in a very positive and gentle way at home, and you cannot leave that child practicing by himself or by herself. Okay? She said, the younger the student, the more the teacher relies on the practice partner, and you are the practice partner to make practice happen productively, right? So what age do we start in Suzuki? 3 or 4 years old, right? And the younger the student, the more the teacher relies on you, the practice partner, to make practice happen productively. There was this one piano lesson, and I said to this kid, I think he was 4 years old at the time, now he's 6. And clearly he came to lesson and he did not practice. I can see in how he's playing. And I said, oh, what happened to practice at home? And the mom answered, oh, he did not practice. I keep telling him to practice, but he wouldn't practice. He just wanted to watch the TV. And I keep telling him to practice. He's not listening to me. Okay. And so I asked the parent, well, where were you? I was trying to cook. Okay. Well, then no wonder the child doesn't want to practice. And no wonder the child did not practice, right? But what if You schedule your practice where you don't need to cook. You schedule it on a time where you're not going to be busy with something, and you tell the child, come, let's practice. And I heard this from somebody. She said, if your child does not want to practice, you invite the child to the piano. If the child doesn't want to come to the piano, you as the practice partner, because you're partners, right? As the practice partner, you go to the piano and you invite your child to come to you because you are by the piano already. You don't tell the child, go to the piano. You as the parent, you go to the piano. Let the child see you go to the piano and you play. What if you don't know how to play? Just play what you remember from what he's playing in lesson. Maybe one technique could be, come, can you teach mommy how to play lightly row? Because I heard you play the lightly row last time and you sounded really well, but I want to learn too. Can you help me? Because I want to practice. Mommy wants to practice. If you don't want to practice, it's okay, but I want to practice. And just try to convince them to do that. And maybe by helping you do that, can you show me how to do it? That's already practice for them, right? So just you being there, being present with them, being an inviting figure will help them. Don't say, oh, he did not want to practice. Blame him during lesson in front of teacher. That's not going to help as well. And so that's what she was saying with being a practice coach, I think, or being a practice partner. You can comment also and tell me, how is it with practice at home? Do you see yourself as a practice partner? There's another situation. So this mom said, I asked her, oh, you should practice with your daughter because you cannot just leave her to practice by herself. And then she said, she doesn't want to practice with me. She only wants to practice with her dad. And her dad is rarely home because he's at work. And when he comes home, he's tired. So I'm the one who practices with her. But she doesn't want me. She doesn't want to listen to me. So what do you do with that kind of situation, right? I mean, I don't know how is the relationship like outside of piano. There's certain comparisons that happen in the brain of the child that they don't verbalize, and what only comes out is, I don't want to practice with you, or I don't want to do what you're trying to tell me to do, right? And so as a parent, I don't know how you can make the child communicate with you better. Maybe you have suggestions with the problem of that parent, but one way that I helped that situation was when the child came for practice that day, I said, how was practice? I always ask, how was practice? Who practiced with you, mommy or daddy? And she said, mommy was helping me practice. Did you obey what mommy was telling you? And then she would just look at her mom because she knows she does not, right? So that's the time I will tell her, oh, mommy is always at the lessons. She's listening to me and she's taking notes, and so she understands what's happening in the lessons. And when it comes to practice time and she's helping you with practice, you need to listen to her. You need to listen to her because mommy knows what she's doing. Okay? Okay. And so after that, I did not really have that problem. I asked the mom, is she still doing the same thing, not listening to you and just listening to her dad? Oh, it's better now. So something like that. Kind of like help the child understand also that their parents are their partners and coaches at home. Okay, and then she said, if practice environment at home is filled with conflict or lacks progress, it is harder for the music student to be successful in the long term. Not all children are self-driven and self-motivated. Learning to love playing the instrument is hard if practice is an unpleasant experience at home. So I really like that part. You can read more about that. Like I said, for those who are just maybe tuning in and hearing this or going through chapter 1 of the book by Christine Goodner, Music Practice Makeover. Okay, I don't want to keep this long, but one of the things that she talked about is success in music. What's your picture of success as a parent? Does success mean that they need to be in a competition? You want to see your child in a competition, and if they are able to play in the competition, then you feel successful? Or do you feel successful when you see them in the recital, and when you compare them with the other recitalists, they're like the best one, and you're like, yes, success. Is that success? Or does success mean you want them to be professional musicians, and they need to go to a prestigious school, and so therefore the training now should be like, okay, we really need to practice because we want you to pass the audition, and I want you to be able to go to this school and that school. And if they're able to go get in that school, then success is that. What is success for you? What does it mean for you? Okay, so here she says, success doesn't necessarily mean that the child will be a professional musician. Okay, and then she said, this could be success. It's success if the child develops a lifelong love of music. If because of the lessons, they begin to love music and have appreciation for the music for the rest of their lives, that's success. It also means developing enough skills on the instruments to enjoy playing it to the best of their ability. They may not be able to go to the prestigious school, they may not be able to win competitions, but they develop the skill enough so that even though they're not taking lessons anymore, they can play for the church, or they can enjoy accompanying somebody, right? If they're playing the piano, they can accompany a violinist or a cellist, or by themselves, they can just play music, read music, and they feel good about it. That can be definition of success as well. What else does success in music mean? It can also mean having an appreciation for music and their instrument during the time that they were having lessons, even though they may not end up playing for the rest of their lives. I had this mentor, Mrs. Arambulo. She was my mentor in Suzuki teaching. And she said there were times when the governor or a certain lawyer or a banker would come to her. Mom, do you remember me? I used to play the piano in your studio. You were teaching me how to do this, and I still remember those times. Oh, I love going to your piano studio, and I love the group lessons that we had, and I really love music, and I enjoy the times that I was with you. And I don't play the piano anymore, but I still go to concerts and appreciate it whenever there's a concert. I go. So what happened? What happened to this person? As a kid, they had such a positive experience with their lessons, and it was a precious and valuable memory for them, that even though they cannot play anymore and they are in a different phase in their lives, they're professionals that does not have anything to do with music, but there is still this appreciation. And that can also be a picture of success in music. And so it also means developing other great life skills as a result of practicing and learning music. The skills that they've learned, the discipline, the motivation, the act of being able to solve a problem one step at a time, that's something that's gained in music lessons. Of course, it's gained in the swimming or in maths and ballet, but music is also a very, very tangible way of gaining that skill of problem solving, or maybe learning how to focus, go into deep focus mode, or break down big challenges into small pieces, or learning to stick to something when it's not easy. Those are important life skills that go beyond the practice, goes beyond the lesson. That is success in music. So what is success in music for you? What do you want your child to be able to achieve? And when you have a clear picture of that, it's something that you want to remind yourself every time practice goes into World War III mode. not a lot of parents really want their kids to be music majors, be musicians. A lot of parents actually think there's no money in music, right? So they want their kids to be doctors and lawyers, but they see the value of music, being able to help their children be disciplined and be confident and have problem solving skills, so they send them to lessons. And so for you need to know your why are you sending your kid to music lessons? And from there, bring that why, bring that vision, and let it help you as you navigate practice with your child. So when practicing becomes a challenge, she says, we may need to break down our practice into smaller chunks, reframe your goals. We may need new strategies, or you may need to take some pressure off and focus on what is going well, and then maybe just work on the challenging stuff tomorrow. Just try and see the best way possible that can make practice at home a positive thing. So I think that's it. You can just keep on reading the book. She did say something about when do we reap the skills and rewards of practice, because like we say, practice is hard work. Is it going to be a lifetime of hard work? When can we reap the reward, or that skill of being able to play by themselves, and they're not taking piano lessons anymore, but they're able to learn the piece by themselves without the help of a teacher? When do we get to that point? It's during the challenge and the wanting to give up but sticking it out anyway that we learn the skill. The skill of playing the piano, the skill of playing the violin. It's when it gets tough, that's when you gain the skill, because you kept doing it. When it got tough, you kept doing it and you kept showing up. That's when you develop the skill. But when it becomes tough and your child wants to give up, and you're like, teacher, we're gonna quit lesson. This is really difficult. It's hard. It may not be the instrument that's hard, but the scheduling is hard. You cannot find a time for practice. It's really hard. Then you're not gonna gain the skill. It's during the challenge and the wanting to give up but sticking it out anyway that we learn the skill. Through the struggles, let me continue. Through the struggles, we build the character traits and life skills that many of us are after when we encourage our child to learn an instrument. The biggest challenge is not about the instrument itself. It's about learning to do things that are hard, that take time and effort. And this is not exclusive to music, but learning to play an instrument is one great way to master these life skills. And so with that, we will end today's chat, but I hope it's been an encouraging time. And like I said, this whole chat is about encouraging one another, helping one another to have more ideas on how to help the child practice. And our book that we're going to be reading and the next few weeks is Christine Goodner's Music Practice Makeover. And I hope that our time together, the time we have spent together, has helped you have better ideas in navigating practice with your children. And also certainly it helped me on how to explore these ideas with the parents in my studio and the students in my studio as well. And so with that, I bid you goodbye, and I'll see you next week.